I'm vaxxed to the max. How about you? The reason I'm on here today is to tell you a tale of my first night out in over a year. It was a beautiful night with two of my best friends, but there was an unexpected twist. We met up at one of the more popular bars and restaurants here, and it's kind of an open air building, and the event we were attending was outside in a tent. You have to walk up to a counter inside to get your drink, and then you carry it outside to your table. I was full of happiness and joy because I love going out and socializing and going to restaurants and bars and just being out in the world more than anybody I know. I love seeing my friends and meeting new people, just having a semblance of being out in the world with strangers and friends gave me a lot of life. So I just went bursting into this venue with my mask on. I found my friends and they said, you have to stand in this one line to order a beverage. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna get a couple of drinks and take them into our event that we're here for outside, so I won't have to go back and forth into this line, because it was a really long line. As soon as I entered the area where you order food and drinks, there was a table of older men, probably in their 60s. There was one man at the table who was a dead ringer for probably the one man in my career who caused me more pain and suffering than any man in my entire career. And that's saying a lot, because a lot of men have caused me a lot of trouble and pain and suffering in my professional life. So I noticed him because it just reminded me so much of this guy. I stood in line, and this was, a half-hour wait. So I'm waiting in line. After about a half-hour wait, it's my turn to step up to the bar and order my 2 drinks. And just as I'm about to step forward, this man that I mentioned to you walks all the way across the entire indoor area, walks right up to the bartender as I'm stepping forward, and just starts asking for things. He takes every credit card out of his wallet and starts throwing like $10 bills at her. He basically jumped in front of this entire long line. In normal life, from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, just would have been like, whatever, and just kept talking to my friends, right? And just let him do his thing and just be rude and obnoxious and gone on my way. Well, I've been in the house for over a year, okay? I've been in this house for 400 something days, basically. I have not been in public. I have forgotten how to act / been building up a lot of feelings about older white men and how they exist in the world and how they use the space around them and how they feel about the space around them. And my 2 friends that were with me were like, that guy just cut in front of you. And I was like, should I do it? Should I do it? And they're like, no. And it's also hard to communicate when you have masks on, so I'm not sure how they really felt about it. And I was like, here we go. So I marched a couple of steps over, put my elbow down on the bar right next to him, and I said, excuse me, sir. It was my turn to order. I believe you just jumped in front of me. Out of all the things, y'all, that he could have said to me at that moment, nothing could have prepared me for what came out of his mouth. He turns to me, looks me in the eye, and says, get your effing Democratic ass away from me. And instantly I said, sir, those words don't mean anything to me. I would just like to order my drinks, since it's my turn. That was very rude of you to do that. And I really don't understand why you did, when there's people waiting half an hour to get their drinks and you've been sitting here the whole time and you see what a long line it is. That's just not very good manners. And then he turns to the bartender and he was like, honey, put a $30 tip on that. As if he were saying, honey, come with me on my private jet to Ibiza. And I said, sir, you have absolutely the worst manners I have ever encountered. And he was like, you get the F away from me, right in my face. And I said, that is extremely rude. So our elbows were next to each other on the bar, like leaning forward. And I kid you not, he takes his entire arm and elbow and goes, hits me like this with his entire arm and elbow, trying to knock my scrawny arm off the bar. And I said, "Sir, was that a nudge? Did you just nudge me?" There was a lot of profanity. There's no need to repeat it here. It was very gratuitous. I said, "You know what? I feel very sorry for you, and I have a lot of pity for you." And when I tell you, this man crumbled. He crumbled into a pile of old white GOP privileged dust and hung his head and looked at me with his unmasked face and said, "You have no idea." And I said, "That's what I thought." And I felt vindicated. I felt pity. I felt victory. Then the plot thickened because one of his pals from the table appeared, shoved himself between us bodily, went like this, made a bicep, which this man was 60 plus years old. Like, "Sir, don't make a bicep." Intimidatingly made a bicep at me, this scrawny girl, and went, and I said, what are you doing? What are you trying to do?" And then the guy went, because he could tell I was not intimidated. And then he said, "Oh," and points to the original man and says, "Is my friend giving you any trouble?" And I said, "He's giving me a lot of trouble, and you need to take care of him right now." And the bicep man uttered many expletives and dragged his friend away. And the bartender said, "I cannot believe that you just said all that to those guys." I said, "Ma'am, I have been in the house for over a year, and I have a lot of pent-up feelings about old white men and the way that they treat women who they think are vulnerable and will cave to their commands and demands. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong girl. It just had to happen. He was being rude to you. He was being rude to me. He was being rude to everybody who was standing in line, and he absolutely deserved to be treated that way." And did you hear when I expressed pity to him? Did you see how he just completely crumbled into a shell of a man? And she's like, "I just can't believe that you said that to him." He and his bicep friend did not bother me the rest of the night. He did technically hit me. It is problematic, but I still feel victorious. I feel great that my first night out gave me a chance to put a stake in the ground and remind a symbolic man of who I am and my place in the world. I did not start the encounter. I did not invite the encounter. It just happened. I was very overdramatic, and I said a lot of things to him that maybe I didn't necessarily need to say, and did things I didn't need to do. But I refuse to back down to men like that anymore. It probably didn't hurt that he looked like someone who has abused me. That was cathartic. It only took me half an hour of being back in society to get into it with an older white gentleman who called me democratic. That's the story of my first night out in 2021. Mind the gap.